dude. What's going on, guys? Welcome to our breakdown of the AFC NFC Championship game. It was a wild week, not really going in the way we expected. A couple injuries, we'll get to that. Some things. The 49ers game we're going to start with. Okay, let's just say that this game was not entertaining. I think it's important that we call a spade a spade. This game's tough.
This game was rough to watch, and obviously if you caught me and Kyle streaming the games yesterday, you saw throughout the entire game we were kind of like, okay, I guess it's just McCaffrey and whoever the hell else wants to run the ball. And I guess Josh Johnson made an appearance too, so that was cool.
Yeah, and Josh Johnson came from Denver. Russell Wilson tweeted, I told you, if you follow me on Twitter, FTBL Only Football Podcast, you'll see all of the Russell Wilson retweets. And this was like, he was like, go get him, Josh, or something like that. I'm like, he did not go get him. Let's be very clear. There was no gotten by Josh Johnson. But Christian McCaffrey, the funniest part of the game, probably his throw that landed in the middle of nowhere. Nobody around. The ball just rolls to John Lynch, the general manager. This was, to me, just hilarious to see. But the game started with Brock Purdy pretty much being injured. So I think the 49ers received the ball, and they ended up punting it. They give it to the Eagles. The Eagles are driving down the field, and then they get to 49ers territory. They're at like the 45-yard line. That space where it's too far for a field goal, but too close for a punt. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And they say, you know what? We're going to go for it. We're going to set the tone right here. And they went for it, and they throw, what was it, like a 35-yard pass to A.J. Brown. Or no, it was Devontae Smith.
It was Devontae Smith, yeah.
And Devontae Smith comes down with it, and to our knowledge, it looked great on the TV. There was no question about it. And then you see Devontae Adams come up and do this.
Yep.
Which means everybody hurry the hell up. And
that's what that meant. I thought it meant never mind.
It means everybody hurry up because I dropped the ball. And if you watched, we blessed you guys with the Kyle Shanahan post-game conference. I hope you guys enjoy those, by the way.
Yep.
Because I really do. But he talked about it, and he said just because of that sense of urgency they had, I thought about throwing the challenge flag. And we talked about that. I was like, wouldn't it just be like, hey, something's going on in the field, you throw the flag? Well, he didn't end up throwing the flag, and nobody told him it was an incompletion until they snapped the ball. So great execution by the Eagles, knowing, hey, we gotta call for this, and everyone's going to run. We're going to get it snapped. So really no time for the 49ers to react. The drive ends in a touchdown. We find out after the commercial break it wasn't a catch, but it's too late for any of that. They kick it off to the Niners. It's like 2 plays later, Brock Purdy's out for the game. Wasn't able to throw any passes, ended up throwing 3 passes on the day. Kyle Shanahan said he couldn't even throw a screen. So you go to Josh Johnson, who is your 4th-string quarterback, and you're like, dude, how could it get any worse than this? Here we are with Josh Johnson, and Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers said we still felt pretty good about our chances. We thought we can run the football. We got a lot of diversity and ways to run the ball here. We can get creative, and we can beat them with our defense, maybe steal a turnover. That's what Kyle Shanahan said. Josh Johnson out for the game with concussion.
Yeah.
It's like they had literally nothing to play with. They had a quarterback that literally can't go into the game because of the concussion protocol. And you have a quarterback that can take snaps, but he can't throw even a screen. And the only other option is to go Wildcat with CMC. But by the time we got to this point, the Eagles scored another touchdown that made it a 3-possession game, and it was just gone. I mean, the game, I would say the only time it was a game was in the first 3 series. After Brock Purdy left the game was over, and it was probably 10 minutes in the first quarter. So, I mean, good for the Eagles. Congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles for making it to the Super Bowl. Sirianni did a hell of a job this year. Jalen Hurts is incredible. Mike can win the MVP. And if he doesn't, we know who will. The guy he's going to be playing in the Super Bowl. So hats off to the Eagles. It's not their fault that the 49ers lost all of their people, right? All you can do is beat the team that you're playing. It's really us at home that wanted to see a good game. But for the Eagles, they're probably like, yeah, we're coasting to the Super Bowl. Let's do it. So,
Yeah.
I think honestly, the Eagles, even if they had the 49ers at full strength, it's not like the Eagles had no chance. Like I think a lot of people thought the Eagles were going to win this game, whether the 49ers had strength or not. So I do feel like we're still getting the best team in the NFC in the Super Bowl, which is really the important thing. If you had a team like, let's say the Giants snuck their way in and now they're playing the Eagles,
Sorry, Bill.
and then the Eagles lost all their quarterbacks,
Yeah.
and the Giants won, we'd be like, man, we got the Giants in the Super Bowl instead of the Eagles. We want to see a team like the Eagles in the Super Bowl. We didn't like the way it happened, but I still think we got probably the best team in the NFC in the final game.
Yeah, definitely. And real quick before I go into this game, Bill is in the chat. Bill, what's up? Cheers
What's up,
to Bill. Steve Young tweeting that he's in the parking lot throwing warm-up throws was the best part of that game. Yeah, it was hilarious. I saw that after the game. That was really, really funny. It's interesting you said that, right? Because it's true. If I'll touch on this point that you just made, right? If it was the Giants, and again, sorry, Bill, but if it was the Giants that moved on in this game because the 49ers, what happened to the Purdy, what happened to Josh Johnson, if that happened, if it was the Giants that moved on to the Super Bowl, we'd be like, oh, come on, at least the fucking Eagles, right? At least if the Eagles came in here, a good team. And it's true. The Eagles and the 49ers were the 1 and 2 in the NFC. So honestly, like the fact that one of these, that both of these teams were in the championship was just like, okay, the two best teams from the NFC were in this game. Unlucky for the 49ers, what happened, but we know at least the top two teams are, one of those is moving on to the Super Bowl, and we can be happy with that. Like you said, we can absolutely be happy with that, As far as the game, you're right. The first like 3 series was probably the most exciting part of the NFC Championship. Now, the catch by Devontae Smith on the sideline where he was like, "Yo, let's hurry up, let's hurry up." Kyle Shanahan, like you said, came out later in the post game conferences was like, "Yeah, it kind of made me think like I should probably hurry up, right?" Because we were like, "What's he doing?" Right? During the stream, we're like, "What does that mean? What is he doing? And why?" And then you were like, "I don't know if that was a catch." I think you said it first. You're like, "I don't think that was a catch," and I was like, "No, I think it was a catch." And then after they snapped the ball. After the Eagles snapped the ball and did a run or whatever it is that they did, we saw the best camera angle on that catch, which was from the right side of Devontae Smith, and he caught it. It hit the ground. It dragged a little bit like towards his waist, and he brought it back into his body to catch it. And again, Kyle Shanahan again was like, well, it kind of made me think about it. But even us not seeing that camera angle beforehand, you were like, I'm pretty sure that wasn't a catch. Why is no one reviewing it? Right. So it's kind of, it is definitely on Shanahan for not calling that, even when he had the idea that maybe it could have not been a catch. That's on him at the end of it. Right. Could that have gone differently? We don't know. We don't know what kind of game could have transpired after that because, I was thinking about this literally yesterday or this morning. I was like, the butterfly effect. One challenge, one little thing. Yeah, one tiny little thing changes. Brock Purdy may have played the whole game. He would have never injured his elbow. He would have never gotten sacked. He would have never been, he would have never injured his UCL, which is going to be huge later on when we talk about that. This game could have been a really good game, but unfortunately, this is what we get, right? And so for the Eagles, again, it's the better team that moved on, or I'm sorry, one of the two best teams that moved on, and that's kind of what we wanted from the NFC. Like you said, boring-ish game. But the Eagles, the defense looked good, regardless of who was back there. Quarterback, I think, even if it was Brock Purdy, even with Josh Johnson, they were getting to the quarterback. They were causing pressure. They were stopping the run pretty good. And then the offense, it did not look great for the Eagles. Now, what I will say is when you're up 21-7 after halftime, are you really going to risk throwing it, getting an interception against this very good San Francisco defense? Probably not, because what did we say during the stream? If the 49ers can get an interception here or some sort of turnover, it can turn the game. Now it becomes a 1-score, a 2-score game, and now they make it with a little bit more momentum. So while the Eagles offense didn't look great as far as Jalen Hurts in the passing game, the running game was effective enough to where they're like, yeah, we won by we won what 31-7. So we did what we had to do. We're moving on to the Super Bowl. And that's kind of what you hope for as an Eagles fan. As an Eagles fan, you wanted exactly what this result was. You don't want a close game.
Yeah, you want to feel good all game.
Exactly. You this, and that's exactly what happened. But we're more football fans of the game. We are more like, we want to see a good game between these two top NFC teams. That was boring for us.
Yeah, and Kyle Shanahan said after the game that this loss, just because of the way it happened, it was more difficult than other losses. Just go and man. I mean, the end of that press conference, they were like, do you think that you can use this to fuel you for next season? He's like, always. You can always do that. And, but he said, it's not just about like getting fueled from a moment. I mean, we gotta make sure we put a good team together, that OTAs go well. And just like already mentally, you're one game from the Super Bowl, and 3.5 hours later, here you are in a press conference talking about OTAs. And it's just like, wow. The shift is incredible. It's sad, right? You get so close and you're like, man, we've been on this journey since OTAs. Now, for us, a lot of fans are like, September, the season started. For Kyle Shanahan, his 2023-24 season started when he left that press conference. And it's like, we don't think about it like that, but he's already like, all right, we got to get ready for next year. Like it never ends. I mean, I'm sure he takes maybe a couple of week vacation just to, get it off and get fresh and get revamped. Everybody needs a break, but that was one thing I want to say. The butterfly effect thing, I was thinking too. I think we were talking about it a little bit. It's weird when you even think about life, just you could somebody, but if you almost didn't go to that place, but because you met them, you got close. And like, it's just, there's so many things and we can never know. And that's why I love that movie, by the way, with Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah.
It kind of
makes you think.
Because it's like, no doubt that it's real. Everyone knows that there is a butterfly effect, and that movie kind of gives us an idea of what it would be like, since we'll never get to see it. Fulfills that itch a little bit. But man, you said so many good things. I'll comment on one more thing. You talked about the catch and how after that catch, I said you got to throw the flag. A lot of this actually is just, if you've been watching the league, I think they're getting better at replaying. And when I think I've talked to Bill about it, where they slow a play down so much that it's almost hard for anything to stand. And it's a good thing, but it's also like, it seemed like a catch. Come on, but not like that one. That was an obvious drop. But there's some where like he definitely has control of it, but because like the very tip of the ball is touching the floor, they're like incomplete, and it's like, come on. Squeezing his forearms, like, no touch, no catch. It's like those are really annoying. So in my head, when I saw that play, I'm like, absolutely, right away, throwing the flag. This is a huge play and a huge moment of the game. And all you have to do is look at that play and be like, you know what? We didn't see a camera angle that looked like it was incomplete, but I guarantee you there's always one. I guarantee you on every catch that looks like that, a lot of them don't get reviewed. But if you slow down, could you imagine how many because you think about it, we only get the angles when the challenge happens. So a lot of times they don't even dig for the angles. So we don't really know how many missed calls there are, because that wouldn't be good for the league to have all these angles and be like, yeah, there's 107 catches that were called complete that were incomplete this year. That wouldn't be good for the league. But you just have to know where we're at in technology and see that type of play and that type of catch and that type of moment and throw the flag and be like, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Okay. But from my view, if it looks like an acrobatic, spectacular catch, I'm probably going to throw the flag, unless it's a Odell catch where he grabs it with two fingers and you can see him clearly have possession. But if it's anything where they're falling to the ground, that has to be thrown, in my opinion, every time. They do something crazy and as they're tucking it, they're falling into the ground. Throw it. What do you have to lose? I mean, they will. Kyle said he thought about throwing it, but he didn't, and you can't really hang it over his head too much. But one of the things that I am going to hang over his head, and I think he's a really great coach, and I think it was like week 9, I called him the coach of the year because of what happened to Brock Purdy and what he turned him into. And I thought about why last week against Dallas did you run the football and they ran on first, they ran on second, and then there was like 27 seconds left or something. And then they went for it on third down. And the whole stadium's like not booing, but you can see they're mad. And Kyle Shanahan was like, yeah, this was the post-game conference after that. He was like, no, I would be annoyed too, just as a football fan. Like I would be annoyed at myself for making that call. But he said, I didn't want to give Dallas the ball back with an opportunity. And then you come into this game and now you don't have a quarterback right now. And you're only down a possession. You're down 7 points. I felt like that same approach was not just a good idea, but it was necessary to get into the locker room down 7. I thought that it doesn't matter if you're down 7 at halftime. It matters if you're down 14 at halftime and don't have a quarterback. So you got to kind of weigh this out. And he decided to get aggressive. And I was shocked because there's a totally different approach from last year. And he for whatever reason decides to get aggressive, and he throws the ball. And what happens? The Eagles end up getting a turnover on downs. Josh Johnson almost had 2 fumbles at this point, but he definitely had a fumble on this one. The Eagles take the ball, and the Eagles end up getting a touchdown. And when I look at that, it's just, for me, it's like, why was the logic last week to be conservative and you had a healthy quarterback? And then you come into this week on the road and you want to get aggressive with no quarterback. So a little bit of consistency, I think, would have made a little more sense, but we didn't really get that. But all in all, the Eagles probably, honestly, we don't know who the better team is, but the Eagles are going to go to the Super Bowl because we didn't have the San Francisco 49ers playing at full health. So that is pretty much all I got on this game. If you want to hit some of these chats from Bill, I think he had some stuff in here.
Okay, yeah, we'll hit the chat. And sorry, I was out for a little bit. I was just getting some stuff rearranged. And Bill brings up a good point, which I was going to talk about here. Purdy out 6 months from UCL in his elbow, and yes, that was a report that came out today. Breaking news that he did have a torn, what is it, unilateral collateral something?
UCL?
Yeah, UCL. It's called a UCL. Collateral ligament, something like that, and he's trying to get a second opinion from his doctor because he doesn't want to go into surgery. Which, with a surgery for UCL, it can be about 6 months until return. But if he were to get it as soon as he could after the consultation and all that, he would be able to come back for the training camp, right? And that's a big story, right? So, I think this kind of goes back to what we were saying about all the tweets calling him a pussy. He's standing on the sidelines. Why isn't he throwing it? We saw 2 throws after Josh Johnson went out with a concussion. One was a screen pass, maybe 3-4 yards ahead of him, that looked decent. And we were like, oh, okay, maybe this is what they're going to do. The second one was also a screen pass, but that one, to me, I was like, that looked like he just barely got it out. And that was like, that to me seemed like it was like full strength Purdy on his arm throwing it, but it was like 3 yards ahead of him. So it was insane. And here's Bill with ulnar collateral ligament. Thank you. Appreciate it, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, that's what it is. And the surgery is different to what a Tommy John surgery would be. And if you're familiar with baseball, you know that could pretty much take a pitcher out for an entire season. So it's going to be, you know, all the criticism he got is just like, stop. You know what I mean? These guys are tough. These guys play NFL football. They get hit by 200, 300-pound guys all the time. These are tough motherfuckers, right? Purdy is no exception. So for anyone calling him a pussy, now you know what he's actually got to deal with, and you know how effective that can be to a quarterback with his fucking throwing arm.
Yeah.
Which by the way, I mean, come on, you can't get any more tough than that to go back into the game and still throw a couple passes when you're telling your own coach and the medic, I can't throw footballs. Like what the fuck, right?
Yeah, and a lot of these people saw Mahomes come into the game. They're like, "Well, Mahomes played, with an ankle sprain." It's like, okay, what does that have to do with Brock Purdy's throwing arm?
Yeah.
Like Brock Purdy could have ran. He's not a running quarterback. He has to throw the
Hmm.
ball. If Mahomes had the same injury in the same arm, he wouldn't have been in the game either. Like
No.
it's just, I think sometimes, especially when you're younger, I
Hmm.
don't know. It looked like there was a lot of adults that were doing this, but maybe they just never grew up. It seems like it seems like you just assume if you're tough that you can just play. Even
Hmm.
and it's like our coach used to always say, "Are you hurt or are you injured?" Because if you're hurt, you can play. If you're injured,
Hmm.
you can't.
Yeah.
And that's true. And as a player, as a professional athlete, that's what Brock Purdy is at this point. He's in the NFL. He's got
Hmm.
his team one game from the Super Bowl. He's a professional athlete. You know the line between hurt and injured.
Oh yeah.
And if you literally can't throw a pass, you're talking a screen pass, brother. Like that is
Yeah.
that is a 3-yard pass in some
Yeah.
scenarios. If you can't
Yeah.
hit a screen pass, that means you can't throw the ball between 7 to 10 yards. Okay,
Hmm.
you're a quarterback. What do you want him to do? He can't throw the ball 7 to 10 yards. Like it's not. And it wasn't just people saying, "Oh, he's a pussy. He's not." Yeah.
Hmm.
My problem is like they were questioning his love for the game, and if he was backing out, it's like
It's
why would
ridiculous.
why would he have rose to the occasion,
Yeah.
in 2 weeks in a row, and
Insane.
all of a sudden been like, "Nah, I'm out." It doesn't make any sense. Like if he was gonna crumble in the moment, I'm sure he would have crumbled on national TV by throwing interceptions. Like, but to say he just was scared, I was like, how I understand you got a good defense. Micah Parsons is more scary than anybody you have on your defense.
Yeah.
Like find
Yeah.
somebody on the as an edge rusher that and they have a great D line, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's got 10 plus sacks, but Micah Parsons is a freak. I mean, the dude can cover, he can he can pursue the quarterback, he can cover. like
Yeah.
like this
You can
you
play
don't
cornerback.
get a
You can
lot of
do
guys
everything.
yeah, you don't get a lot of guys that you have really good linebackers, really good coverage linebackers, and then you have really good edge rushers. And a lot of the edge rushers, like think of Von Miller and stuff like that, they could cover, but there's levels to it, right?
Yeah.
Micah Parsons will follow your halfback 30 yards up the field cover. Okay. A lot of linebacker coverage are like, hey, let's just kind of zone them right here. They're just
Hmm.
going to stay in this area. Micah Parsons will man somebody up and run 35 yards down the
Yep.
field with him. So I say all that to say Brock Purdy would have had that moment last week playing Micah Parsons. It wasn't going to happen this week. People get mad and they don't know where to direct it. I think that's what
Exactly.
it's like. They wanted Brock Purdy in the game. So did I, right?
Hmm.
But I just took a different approach with it. I realized Brock Purdy wanted this really bad. I know that you want to know how I can be sure that he wanted this really bad? Listen to this question. Who's going to be the 49ers quarterback starting training camp next year?
Brock fucking Purdy.
Is he?
Maybe.
Right? If he wins that game, you
Yeah.
bet your bottom dollar he's going to be the quarterback going into next season.
If he
This
gets
was
into a Super Bowl, that's just automatic.
yeah. So this is a huge moment for him in his life. Like, if anything, it must have been soul crushing that he had to sit there on the sideline and watch his team get their ass kicked, and he couldn't help it all. You know what I mean? That is literally like being handcuffed to a pole, and you can't help somebody across the room that's in
Hmm.
need. I mean, that's a terrible thing to go through.
Yeah.
And I think he should have been given sympathy. And people are just terrible, man. But
Yeah.
I
And
hope he
and this
recovers well.
Yeah, and I hope so too because and as Bill's saying here, right? I so wanted the Purdy storyline to go the whole way and get to Super Bowl
Me
because he
too.
thinks they could have beat the Chiefs. Kid is amazing. He is amazing. What he did in his first 7 games as a starter, 2 of them being in the playoffs, was amazing. It is amazing. And look, it all that Twitter stuff that we were seeing while we were doing the stream. I was reminded of when the Jay Cutler was standing on the sideline for the Bears in that NFC Championship game against the Packers in like 2011, 2010.
I remember that.
Yeah. If
They
I
should
had
even love football.
exactly, he's not a leader. He doesn't want to play. He's not hurt. He's on the bike. He's fine. If I had Twitter back then, I probably would be like these people talking about his bullshit. Oh, he doesn't love football. What the fuck's he doing? All this that he did on during the season just to lose, in the biggest game to get to the Super Bowl. That probably would have been me. Now, clearly, I have grown since then. I can understand that. Yeah, I would hope so, too, right? I can understand that the injury that Brock Purdy sustained. Think about this. This is a 300-pound man coming at you full speed. And as you're throwing it, it gets interrupted by an entire person's body. And and you think that he should play through that? Like, come on, man. Like you can't say that when it's an NFL game and everyone there is trying to get to the biggest game of the year, which is the Super Bowl. Like, you guys, like, people like that need to grow the fuck up and not all of a sudden just say he doesn't love football. If that were me, I'd go in there. I don't give a fuck. I need to go to the Super Bowl. I got 2 weeks to recover. Yeah, yeah. Just as you're eating chicken wings and fucking stuffing your face with Coca-Cola.
Put me in, coach.
Shit. Yeah, put me in, coach. It's just it was ridiculous, but again, it was just ridiculous. I do want to give props to the Eagles, though. Before we move on to the AFC Championship, great game played by them. Sirianni understood. I'm in the lead here. I don't want to put my team in any sort of situation where now they have to defend after maybe a pick six, a fumble six, some sort of turnover, right? Again, that's kind of what I was thinking during the game. I was like, they're running it a lot. I wonder why. And then today I was like, oh, okay, that does make sense. Why play against this very good defense and possibly get a turnover? So props to them. Sirianni knew exactly what to do. He knew that Miles Sanders was running the ball well. Bart Scott, Jalen Hurts, even, like, all these guys were doing really well. And, he won the game. So props to the Eagles, Sirianni and Hurts. Like you said, pretty much my MVP for the season.
Yeah. And one thing too about the Cowboys, since we are talking about the Cowboys, there was breaking news. And this would be a lot of fun to talk about. But Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator, who looks just like my childhood friend, Morty. His name's John Mordecai. We call him Morty. And literally, dude, I'll send you a picture. But he got a job to be the Chargers offensive coordinator.
Yep.
And it's very interesting. It's very interesting. And it says a lot about the state of the Cowboys that you would take literally the same job in a different home. Right. And I get it. Dallas. Yeah, Dallas is really fun. Dallas is actually a good time, but he's going to Los Angeles now. You know what I mean? You can go get a nice home on the beach, whatever. He's
making that money too.
Women wear less clothes. Like, I've lived in Miami. Like, I know what it's just, even if it's just nice to walk around, downtown, whatever. Anyway, so he's taken that job, and congratulations to Kellen Moore.
Yeah, good for Kellen Moore. They said they moved on from Kellen Moore's OC, which is
bullshit. They moved from Dak Prescott and accepted.
It was either they fired him or he's like, "Yo, I'm out of here. I could probably get a way better job somewhere way better."
That's like I didn't get fired. I quit. It's
like,
literally asked you to leave. No, they didn't kick me out. They asked me to leave.
he's like, "Hey guys, I quit." He's like, Mike McCarthy's like, "Well, you can't quit because you're fired." Good for him though. Good for him. He's going to the Chargers. Hopefully he can make the Chargers not Charger, and they can, be in the playoffs for, a little bit longer next year. So
I think we'll see. And you also see his value when you see how the Cowboys are offensively next year, which will be fun. And it'll give us a lot to talk about in the offseason. It'll be actually interesting to see who takes over.
And Mike McCarthy was actually talking about taking over play calling.
Yeah, he has an offensive background. So if Jerry Jones wants to double down, here's his opportunity to double down. We'll see how much you really trust Mike McCarthy. But the last thing I will say, and we'll move on, is that I did think, just like you, or I don't know if it was Bill. Bill said he would have liked to see Brock Purdy in the Super Bowl, thinks he could have done it all. I also think Brock Purdy, and this has nothing to do with what happened yesterday, I also think that a healthy 49ers team would have, I think they could have won. I really do. I think they could have won the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. Just that defense is so nasty. And that they had so many weapons. And it's weird because you know how we get 1 week removed from something bad and we forget about everything?
Yep.
Debo, all these guys didn't do anything. And the one criticism I have on Kyle Shanahan is, why wasn't he more creative? It's almost like he accepted it. And I wish we would have saw McCaffrey go Wildcat.
Yeah.
I wish we would have saw Deebo Samuel get the ball more. I mean, I understand it's hard when defensively they know you're going to run it. Like there was a play where Brock Purdy like dropped back and the linebackers just literally ran straight to the wide receiver to smash him because he knew it's a screen. He can't throw the ball.
Yeah.
So you have a major disadvantage, but as a running team that can impose your will, I'm just surprised that they didn't get a little more creative with the actually there was a couple plays that they tried to get creative and it just didn't
There
work.
was.
But still, it just feels like even though they didn't have a quarterback, I mean, do you know what I mean? I don't
No.
want to say that there was something left to be desired, but I feel like Kyle
But there
Shanahan,
was.
the offensive guru, right?
You
Couldn't he
wanted
have dialed
him.
some stuff up?
Yeah, you wanted him to flex on what the situation was presenting to him, right? You wanted him to be like, okay, I know Brock Purdy can't throw. They know Brock Purdy can't throw. Let me throw CMC in a wildcat, like you said. And CMC did throw a ball at one point, and it was just directed at no one. It was like 10 yards in front of a wide receiver.
Like
But you know,
CMC,
is what it is. But like you said, it did feel like, oh, okay, are we just kind of going with this offense then for the 49ers? I know exactly what you're saying.
yeah, it felt like there was a point where Kyle Shanahan was like, I accept, wave that white flag.
He like plateaued. He just plateaued. That's all it was. And it did feel like shit because like you said, this is a coach of the year candidate and yet he can't pivot to something that would help them win the game.
Yeah,
Right.
and that comes from, two guys that aren't coaching. It may be really hard to get creative when you're one-dimensional. Just defensively, they may be able to like lock it down. They don't really have to cover the receivers very much. I mean, if you're really one-dimensional, I'll say they could have gotten more creative in that span of time where we didn't know how hurt Brock Purdy was. Do you know when we were like, can he throw it? Okay, he's coming back into the game. They, for all the Chiefs knew, they weren't one-dimensional yet. But by the time the fourth quarter came, it was like obvious he can't throw the ball at all.
Yeah.
But for all we know, Kyle Shanahan was being extremely creative and he was trying his hardest and nothing was working, but I think we saw a product on TV that makes us feel like he could have done more.
Yep.
But for all we know, I feel like Kyle Shanahan's not really the right guy to question. He's a very decorated play caller.
Yeah. And it sucks. Second year in a row, second NFC championship game. And he's out of it. It sucks. It sucks for Kyle Shanahan. But the good thing is that he is consistently getting back here. And he was dealt a shitty hand with the quarterbacks, right? Like they got hurt. Last year was Jimmy G. He's a winner, but he can't necessarily win the big game, in a sense. He's not really like top tier level winning games. And Matthew Stafford and the Rams were just really good last year. So it's not necessarily just on them. But it does suck for Kyle Shanahan being as good a coach as he is.
You mentioned this as a Bears fan, how it's just nice to be in the game. Something that we don't take for granted is just being in the game. Like the world looks at it like, well, man, you get so close and you have to start all the way over. But man, how nice is it when there's only 4 teams left and you're one of those last teams standing? Like that is very impressive to do. What was it, 4 out of 5 years he's been in that game? So, I mean, even though it hasn't gone his way yet, I do think it's only a matter of time. It's just like John Elway finally got the Super Bowl rings. But, man, I feel like I would give a left nut just to be in that game again, just to have something going for me again. So let's move on to the AFC. We talked about the Chiefs a little bit. The Chiefs played host to the Cincinnati Bengals, who went into this game calling it Burrowhead because they had a 4-0 record against the Chiefs. Travis Kelce didn't like that much, and the Chiefs showed up.
Grab a seltzer real quick.
Yeah. The Chiefs showed up, and they played a good game. By the way, Jinja, we appreciate having you in here, and thank you for the compliment. Bill is back. Let's go. So you have a really good setup for a good game, and here's the thing about it. Okay, I've had some time to think.
Let's go.
Some time to think. You were right about some things, and I was right about some things, but I don't think anyone was wrong about much. And that sounds, let me explain. When you're shooting, think about all the shows that are on ESPN, whether it's First Things First, Undisputed, First
Mhm.
Take, um, Pardon the Eruption. I don't know if they're still doing that, but all these shows get a full like 12 hours to digest, and it's really
Yeah.
important, right?
Yeah.
Even if you get into an argument with your spouse or significant other, sometimes it's good to take a break because
Mhm.
you're not in the right mind to be problem solving or hearing. And when we do these live streams, that is a risk that we take, is that
Yeah.
we are, it's all reactionary. It's all
Yeah.
in the moment, right? And then
Mhm.
we don't get the grace to kind of decompress and think about it. There
That'd be
was
a
a
that
couple
would be a long live stream if we did.
yeah, yeah, dude, they've been live for 13 hours just venting on their couch, therapy
They
couch.
they haven't spoken one word to each other, and they're just scrolling Twitter right now.
Oh god, that would be our therapy though. We'd just be on like you would be on Chiefs Twitter and I would be on
Yeah,
Bengals Twitter and then we'd trade phones and then be like, all right.
that makes sense.
There were definitely some things that happened in this game.
Mhm.
Um, we could talk about the game itself, but I think the meat and potatoes of this game is obvious. The world was watching. I think there's
Yep.
100 million people watching this game. And right now the hot topic is the way it was officiated. So
Mhm.
I think everybody saw the game. No need
Mhm.
to really like, Joe Burrow when, the stats because there's 100 million people watching it. And part of the breakdowns we do a lot of time is because there was 17 games playing and there's no way everybody could have watched all the games. But in this case, I say we just cut straight to it. We talk about what the world is thinking.
Yep.
What was fair? What wasn't? I'll say this. There were some plays that happened that were very, very interesting. And I think what makes it more interesting is that you do have a Chiefs team that is potentially going to the Super Bowl, which means you have Andy Reid's reunion with the Eagles. You have
Mhm.
the Kelsey Bowl. You have all these things, which I think if it weren't such a match made in heaven,
Mhm.
some of these thoughts wouldn't arise because I've never been one to say the NFL's rigged. I've been one to say the refs suck,
And real
but not
quick,
yeah.
the storylines. Do you know what the stadium name is in Arizona?
Um, Phoenix, isn't it Phoenix
The
Field?
State Farm Stadium. And who's the State Farm spokesperson in the
Oh,
NFL? It's Patty Mahomes, baby.
you got to dig for that one. You got to dig for that. That is like you're
But
deep.
yeah,
Yeah,
but sorry
that's
to
great.
interrupt. Keep going,
No,
keep
that was
going.
a great interruption because it adds more. If you got any more, just put it in the comments. But I think there was those questions because all the stuff that was at stake. You had
Mhm.
the third down play that they were able to repeat, and they ended up getting it. And then when they didn't get it, they got a penalty to give it. And but you also had two touchdowns that were called back from the Chiefs.
Yep.
So if it's going to be rigged, you got to look at it on that side too. Why would they call back those touchdowns for the Chiefs? What is definitely fair to say is it was terrible what
Mhm.
happened on that third down because it made everybody feel like we're not like playing the game of football the way it's supposed to be played, and we've gotten mad at calls before, but we've never questioned like a play being redone somehow in a very
Mhm.
important game, a game that the Bengals are sending out their special teams to return a punt, and
Yep.
the ref says third down again. And everyone's like, "What? What is this? We're in the backyard? Like, what is this? Like, Jimmy had to go take the
Mulligan.
bathroom break?"
Mulligan.
Yeah. So, and the ref that was running out on the field because the NFL was very, very intentional about showing us the image of the ref running out the field. Here's the
Mhm.
thing: he didn't blow the fucking whistle. Why, if you're
That
trying to stop a play, are you not
yeah,
blowing the whistle?
that's
You
what
know,
I
I
was
don't.
confused about.
Yeah, I understand that I don't know the protocols and all that stuff, but I do know from playing football that the play is over when the whistle is blown. And that's
Mhm.
why every coach will teach you to play through the whistle. If you
Mhm.
think it's a catch, but it might be a fumble, you pick up the ball, everybody's just standing around and you're running towards the end zone, and then everyone's like, "Oh shit, they never blew the whistle." You always play to the whistle.
Mhm.
And if you're trying to end a play, why aren't you blowing the whistle? That is the question that I had. They never blew the whistle, and if you don't blow the whistle, why are they replaying the down? Like, that should be considered,
Yep.
the ref's fault, and they should get off the field. The other play that everybody is talking about is the final play of the game where a player steps out of bounds, he gets
Mhm.
pushed. He did get pushed, and he was out of
Mhm.
bounds, and it is Patrick Mahomes, and all those things are true. But you did say it yourself, you thought there was a little bit of a flop there. I
Mhm.
found it extremely unsatisfying that this penalty set them up into field goal range. Now I'll say it was it was the player's fault for hitting Patrick Mahomes, but it's also worthy of noting, and it's funny because the media has been different depending on what you watch. Because if
Mhm.
you go on like Pat McAfee, they're talking about it this way, and then you go on another thing, and they're like, no, that was like, I've played football, I know
Mhm.
football speed. It's very hard to time these football type plays, and
Yep.
you had a lot of different opinions, which I was thankful for because the first two shows I watched were all saying, like, no, the Bengals guy messed up. And I was like, am I the literally only one in Bengals fans? I'm not a Bengal fan. Like, like, and then I saw some other shows that were like, oh, no, no, no. I think that this was one of those penalties because of the consequences of what was going to happen, a 45-yard field goal. It's
Mhm.
definitely one that you just hold on to. Either way, it it didn't feel good to see a game end like that.
Mhm.
And if we're gonna just blame it on one player, the head coach said it very well. Zach Taylor said there was a lot of it didn't come down to that play. There was a lot of plays that were left on the field that we didn't make.
Yep.
Hurst had a ball go right in his hands when he
For a
ran
touchdown.
on. Was that fourth down? I believe that was fourth down, or they had to kick a field goal. It was a
Mhm.
drive-ending play, and it could have been a touchdown. So there were plays that could have been made out there in the field. What I think bothers me the most is Kyle Shanahan said, when it comes down to the final four, any one of those teams is capable of beating any one of those teams on any given day.
Yeah.
So you could have the Bengals have won, you could have the Niners have won, the Niners can beat the Chiefs, the Eagles can beat the Bengals can beat the Eagles. Like, every team can beat in the final four can beat each other. That's why they're there.
Yeah, exactly.
But you also want to see who you believe in your head, right? And this is what makes it personal. You want to see who you believe in your head to be the best. I can get over the 49er thing because I think the Eagles, they could have been the better team. Like, I have no way to know that. I did pick the Niners, but I thought it was going to be extremely close, and I thought the Super Bowl winner is going to come out of the NFC anyway, so who cares?
Mhm.
But when it comes to the AFC, I did think the Bengals were better than the Chiefs, and that's why this penalty, for personal reasons, sucked, because it was like, man, I think the Bengals would give the Eagles a run for their money better than the Chiefs, and I'm always just looking for the best football.
Yeah.
And it was just, I can't remember a game that came down to a penalty, and it was just, man, we last year we were spoiled, and I said that after the game. We had Joe Burrow and Mahomes going back and
Yeah.
forth, and you left me 30 seconds. Well, you left me 13. It's like,
Yeah.
all right, we're going to overtime. Touchdown, first drive, game's over. There was like 40 points scored in the last 7
Mhm.
minutes. It's like,
Mhm.
what is going on out here? And then we get this, to this week, and it's like, here we go. Bengals, Chiefs, and it's like he steps out of bounds and he got pushed, and it was a late push, but now it sets up a 45-yard field goal. Game's over. It was just
Yeah.
like, whoa, we were about to go to overtime.
It's
It's
about to be the
over.
most epic game from other than last year. Like, it's
Yeah,
about to
and
be so
it
great.
just ends like that.
Yeah.
And it was funny. Mahomes is like, I just want to thank God. And then Travis Kelsey butts in, and he's like, talking about the Bengals, and he's like, they need to shut their mouth and know their role. And I'm just like,
Mhm.
gosh, dude, it just felt like it was like, what do you call when you're just like he couldn't, I don't know, like the temperature was just off. It was like, really, like,
Yeah.
that's what you're gonna say? Like, this was not a game where you can be like, this is not like, you're 1-3, 1-4. Wait, was it 1-3 or 1-4?
1-3 now.
So you're 1-3 now. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
that doesn't mean that Arrowhead is not Burrowhead. I mean, you're 1-1,
Yeah.
and I just thought, because of the way it ended, all this stuff came off a little more obnoxious than
Mhm.
normal. And I understand, Travis Kelsey is going to be like that. These jock players like Gronk was like that. You have a
Oh, yeah.
lot of like this kind of attitude from these tight ends, but in the moment that the world is kind of, healing from what just happened,
Mhm.
it was just like salt on the wound for a lot of people. And now I think you're going to have like 80% of the world cheering for the Eagles, to be honest.
That's definitely, it was definitely insane what Kelsey said there. Real quick, I just want to get to a couple of these comments before I move on here. Bill saying, put you in a mention on Twitter with the past video. Definitely will check that out, Bill. We'll definitely reply to you. And we got Jinja in the chat. Jinja, what's going on, bro? Thanks for joining us. He said you guys killed it last night. We appreciate it. If you didn't catch it, we had a very special live stream of the Bengals Chiefs game last night. Ginger caught it. He enjoyed it. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. If you guys haven't taken a look at that, go on YouTube and check it out. And we also got Liam here in the chat. Liam, cheers. Thank you. Welcome.
What's up, Liam?
Thanks for joining us again.
Go
Steelers. Okay, so what I will say, the Kelsey thing, I'll kind of just like take your recent comment and then just go back. The Kelsey thing, I didn't actually have a problem with. The reason being is because the week leading up to this game, or to last night's game, all the Bengals were talking about Burrowhead. Burrow owns the stadium. And if you're going to talk shit, which the Bengals have all the right to, talk shit about Burrowhead. They were 3-0 going into this game. You got to get that. If you're going to dish it, right?
You dish it, you got to take it.
You got to take it. And it's true. But now what you're saying in that time, in that situation, after everyone is, like you said, healing from this fucking referee alpha game, that the rest were like, yeah, I'm going to alpha the shit out of this game. Check this out, right? Hold my beer. It was weird. It was like, oh, come on, man. Like what happened was like bullshit in a sense. But it's the players, it's the intensity. I love it. I fucking love the raw emotion sometimes that comes from these players, right? I absolutely love it. And it's great to see because these are competitors, and I think a lot of people, especially, and I don't want to make this a whole political thing, but like in somewhat of the climate today, it seems like, oh, don't show this emotion. Don't act like such a fucking asshole, this and that. No, these are sports. It's competition. It's guys at the most top level putting their all into this, making this their career, their life, what they've done since they were 5 years old up until they're in their 30s, mid 40s, if you're fucking Tom Brady, right? And into coaching. Like, this is what they've done this entire career. And me, as a guy who has a podcast with you, loves this. Because we love talking about it. We love dissecting it. We love watching it. We love feeling that emotion from these players. So I didn't necessarily have an issue with it because, again, all the shit talking leading up to it, blah, blah, blah. It's just raw emotion going into this one moment of winning. So I loved it. I just enjoyed it from both sides. I enjoy it from all sides. I loved that the Bengals called it Burrowhead. That was actually really catchy. I loved it.
It was nice. It was nice.
Because it was.
I felt like they were, in a lot of ways, they were still a disrespected team. And we just found out that I forgot what team it was. It was one of the teams, but they're now going to interview the Bengals defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator for a head coach job. And it was like, finally, what took so long? You got, why hasn't was it Houston, Arizona, Carolina, Denver? Nobody's. I know Denver's thing is like they just want a head coach with experience because they've done the OCDC thing for a while now. They're true. Like, can we just get someone in here that's done the damn job? Like,
who can do it? Yeah,
I don't even care if you're good at it. We'll take Jack Del Rio at this point. Like, but okay. So anyway, disrespected team. So I think that kind of goes into a lot of like, hey, who day? That's kind of like the attitude. It's like, we are those guys and nobody knows it. And you're right. If you're going to dish it, you got to take it. My Pop Warner coach used to say, if before the football games, we're going to do the, and I'll kind of get, cause I was like a big football junkie. Like I was like, I wanted to like smash helmets and stuff and the kids weren't into it yet, but I grew up on it and they were just like, parents put them in it to get them in sports, right? It was different.
To get them active.
I remember trying to get everybody like emotionally invested. And the coach was like, if you're gonna talk the talk, you gotta walk the walk. Like you gotta go out there and win. And at the time, our team was like 0-9. You know, we
Mhm.
hadn't scored a touchdown the whole year.
Mhm.
So he was basically saying like, no, I don't want to be embarrassed when you guys act like you're all tough and you go out there and
Mhm.
suck. And even
Exactly.
though
Yeah.
in the moment it taught me a really valuable lesson about knowing when to talk and when to shut up. And it's like,
Yeah.
look, just go out there and let your playing do all the talking for you. And unfortunately, we didn't win a game that year. We
Mhm.
got one touchdown the entire season.
Oh my
So
god.
yeah, it was a terrible first experience.
And
My parents actually like sponsored the Pop Warner team and like got us all really dope uniforms and stuff, and we
mhm.
looked great. We just sucked. Like we looked awesome. I had a visor and everything,
You
but they didn't
guys
know how to use players. Like these coaches,
yeah.
I don't know what they do for a living. They weren't coaches, but
You
what do you
guys were the shiniest turd in Pee Wee football.
Yes, yes. We showed up and people were probably a little worried, and then the first play happened, and they're like, "We're good.
Yeah.
We're good. They suck." Um, but
But
two things. Travis
yeah.
Kelce has I told you, we've had 3 presidents in office since the Broncos beat the Chiefs, and Travis Kelce has been known to be very vocal in the
Mhm.
Broncos games about
Mhm.
our fans and saying like, you know, "We own you." Just kinda like the
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers thing, like,
Oh yeah.
so I do realize that a lot of this is like is in there. It might not be like something that it's hard to admit, but it's in
Mhm.
there. It's deep
Mhm.
in there, and I just want to see him lose. And
Mhm.
it's true because it's just the way he acts and carries himself. He's not like humble about it. It's very disrespectful.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Aaron Rodgers is a guy that you could lose to for like 20 years and somehow it doesn't like bother you immensely. But when you have a Kelsey attitude, it's just like somebody just like go like come over the middle and
See,
just
he but here's the thing. You are a Broncos fan. You hate the Chiefs because, like you said, you just mentioned it. You know how many presidencies there's been since you guys have beat them. I know how many years it's been since that Aaron Rodgers has owned the Bears. It's different for us because I can see where you're thinking of that. If Aaron Rodgers was like Travis Kelce, to me, he would be more hateable. Absolutely. But the thing is, I still fucking hate Aaron Rodgers because he's so goddamn good against the Bears and he owns the Bears and it's fine. And that's the thing that that as a fan, right? Like not even the players, not even being a player, not even thinking about that as a fan. I hate Aaron Rodgers as a football player. As a person, he does ayahuasca and seems like a chill fucking dude. It seems like I'd have a great time with him, right? California boy. Yeah, like, dude, like it could be a random Thursday. We'd be high as fuck and it'd be
yeah,
like 3
Colin
p.m.
Coward hates him.
Yeah, yeah, you see what I mean? But it's like it's different for us as fans. And I think another again, it's another beautiful part of the game is because we can hate someone so much as a player, but as a person, we're like, I on the field, I hope they can't do shit. Like you said, sometimes I just want somebody over the middle to give Travis Kelce just a quick little fucking shoulder shove, right?
Yeah.
But off the field, their family, their personal life, good. Go ahead, go enjoy whatever you did. But as a fan, dude, it just sucks. So, um, we got Steve and Tyler in the chat. By the way,
What up,
thank you guys for
Steve?
joining us, Steve. Cheers. And we got
Cheers,
Tyler
Steve.
Fink in here.
What's up,
I can only
Tyler?
stop by for a few, but I just want to say to Kyle, Mahomes was already 2 steps out of bounds before the Bengals linebacker shoved him to the ground. It wasn't a flop. Go Chiefs in the Super Bowl. All right. Well, you got Tyler there. You got
Well,
Tyler there talking about
I
the Chiefs.
actually I made a video. It's on our shorts if you want to go check it
Mm-hmm.
out. And what I did was I took the play and I slowed it down the same way the NFL does
Mm-hmm.
in an editing movie software.
Yeah.
And what I saw was he puts his hands on Mahomes before he's out of bounds. The push, however, happens after. So
Yeah.
he has his hands on him. And then as he's going out of bounds, it almost looks like he's trying to use Mahomes as a way to like stay up on his feet.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying like he wasn't
You're not
trying.
justifying it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just
Yeah.
saying like I think that it was just one of those plays where they're running out of bounds together and he extended his arms and he probably, hates himself for it because then
Mm-hmm.
Mahomes went flying, right?
Yeah.
And
Into the bench, by the way.
yeah, and meanwhile, this dude actually like hurt himself.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
was like the fact that he hurt himself kind of shows you the intensity that he was running at
Yeah.
Mahomes.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
in a regular play, we've seen people run in the sideline, but to run into the bench and get clobbered by, a bench, you're
Mm-hmm.
giving it 150% because you're just trying to make sure Mahomes doesn't turn a corner because he's
Mm-hmm.
a runner. This isn't Tom Brady. right? We talked about Tom Brady getting calls. The difference between Tom Brady is he's not actually a threat to run the football. Mahomes can take a corner, pick up 7 extra yards, and now they're in field goal range. I do think there was a huge sense of urgency to get him out of bounds, and I just think he should have just pulled his arms back. He got him out of bounds, but then I think they were both like, shit, now here we are out of bounds, and we're both going 15 miles an hour, right? It was going to end bad. But Peyton Manning said when he retired, he's like, why does it always go to the Broncos?
I don't know if you could tell, but he's a Broncos fan. I don't know if you could tell.
He said when he retired, or after Super Bowl 50, he won. And I think it was Jim Nantz. He said, Peyton, well, everybody's wondering, is this going to be your last rodeo? Are you going to go off into the sunset like John Elway did? And he said, I'm going to echo some wise words I heard from Tony Dungy. And he said, never make an emotional decision. And he was like, I don't know. I really don't. And that's why I don't know why Rodgers gets so much shit. Like, it is a very wise thing to do, to not make emotional decisions, like to step away and reevaluate your entire life. Because if you're not going to be 100% and give it 100%, you're letting all the guys in the locker room down. So you better make sure that when you come back, you're 100%. Don't just say it and then be like, oh, I got to come back now because I said it, and give 70%. Meanwhile, all of these players are trying to win a Super Bowl, and you're just feel like you have to do it because you said you're going to do it. Like, that's not okay.
Exactly.
And I think that's just like one of those, we're watching this play live, and I may have acted like, the Chiefs would totally suck, but we didn't have time to step away emotionally. You know what I mean? These were emotional decisions on air. And it makes for great TV too, because you see, everybody loves when Skip and Shannon are screaming at each other. You know what I mean?
Skip, hold on, Skip. Skip. Okay, see, Shannon, what happens is
I don't know why I have to do this.
So, with all that being said, again, there's just a lot of emotion in the game. So going back to this game, right? And what the amount of decision making made by the refs, it was true. And that was one thing that you said. You're like, I said things that were correct. You said things that were correct. Nobody was necessarily wrong. What I will say is, I was wrong in the fact that there was a lot of, and Zach Taylor said it, there's a lot of things that could have happened in the game. And there was a lot of things that did happen in the game that led to this loss. We could have been better here. We could have converted this. Hayden Hurst could have caught the ball here, right? What I was wrong in is saying that we knew the refs had a huge imprint on this game, but it turned out to be an even bigger imprint on this game. Like, not only the weird third down, like, oh yeah, here's another down, 5 downs, by the way.
Run it back.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. JK, run it back. Haha, got you, Patty. Here's another third down real quick. Not only was it that, it was questionable calls, questionable holds and deep and defensive or offensive pass interference that weren't called, things that were not called on both sides, right? Like, there's little things like this that just add up and make this colossal pile of shit that was that game for the refs. Now, what I will say about the game, this game was really good. This game was way better than the NFC Championship. And while the refs still had a huge impact on this game, both teams played fucking amazing. And yeah, you could say they didn't actually play amazing, but they played really well for what we were expecting. Patrick Mahomes on one ankle, right? The defense, importantly, Chris Jones stepping up for the Chiefs when it mattered. The Bengals, right? Jamar Chase being an automatic pain in the ass for the Chiefs. T. Higgins, all these guys, like who am I missing as far as the wide receiving core?
Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins.
Tyler Boyd, like all these guys actually being a problem, right? Like, they actually went in there and were like, remember last year when nobody thought we were going to make the Super Bowl? Okay, well, we're back here again, proving to you that we are not like how you said, the forgotten stepchild. We're actually right there with the Chiefs. We're going to be here again. We're probably going to another Super Bowl. This is going to happen again. So no matter what you think about this game, both teams still played really, really well. Both sides of the ball, all three sides, right? The special teams as well. They all kind of came together and they had a pretty damn good game. The Chiefs were just a little bit better, and it showed in the fact that Chris Jones got that third down sack. That was like super important.
That
Right?
intentional grounding was even more important too.
It was
Which
too.
was
Yeah.
another discretionary call. Intentional
Hmm.
grounding is discretionary.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was another one that a lot of fans are mad about. I didn't mind it as much because
Hmm.
it was a little bit of a stretch, but I do think Burrow probably saw Joe Mixon and was like, if I
Yeah.
throw it
Yeah.
here, I won't get called because
Yeah.
he's a high IQ quarterback.
Absolutely.
The fact that got thrown at him, he was probably himself like, dude, why do you think I got rid of it in the pocket? Like, do you
Hmm.
think I'm like not aware of the rule?
Hmm.
So that
Exactly.
took 'em
Like,
back very far. They had, I think, what was it, 3rd and 7, and then all of a sudden it's like 3rd and 17. It's like, oh
mhm.
shit, dude, they're not going to convert on this, and then they get sacked, and it's like,
Exactly, exactly. It's and as much as we talked about the offensive line for the Bengals, that was maybe one facet of the Bengals game that didn't have such a great game because Burrow was under pressure a lot during this game, a lot, a lot. The
yeah,
best thing that happened for the Chiefs was probably Isaiah Pacheco. That running game from Isaiah Pacheco was really good. They did really, really well with him. They tried to give it to McKinnon, which during the regular season, McKinnon was probably the better back, but for towards the end and into the playoffs, Pacheco is the better back. So good thing on them for doing that. But again, the refs put their stamp on this game, unfortunately. But I think, in my opinion, we still got a really good game. It came down to a Butker field goal. I think I may have said that actually in our Wednesday episode. I'm going to have to actually go back and say that. If it was either this one or the Giants-Eagles game, I forget which game I said it for. I'm pretty sure I said it comes down to a last-second field goal.
that's interesting though that
Yeah.
you said Mixon, he did better
Mhm.
than Mixon. It
Pacheco?
seemed like that. Did it seem like that?
Pacheco, I don't know. I think he did better than Mixon.
Yeah, he had 10 attempts for 26 yards. So he
Pacheco?
averaged 2.6 yards a carry, and Joe Mixon was only 8 for 19. But if you
Mhm.
look at overall, like team wise, the
Receiving, maybe?
the Chiefs had 42 yards rushing, and the Bengals had 71.
Oh,
They
wow.
both averaged 5 yards per play. So
Mhm.
the offenses were like
They were on
doing,
par. They were
yeah,
on
and
par.
the Chiefs only had, was it uh 48 yards more of
Mhm.
offense, including passing and rushing. And they
Mhm.
got those 48 yards passing,
Yeah.
or yeah, they had more passing. They had 315 yards passing to 238.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a great game. It
Yeah.
was. It was a
I
great
think
game.
yeah, and I think again, like I said, all facets of the game were there, bits and pieces, right? Because the Bengals didn't really do anything until maybe the second half. And Steve saying right here, all said and done, Bengals choked. They should have won the game. Burrow's 2 interceptions were totally his fault, not producing offensively till the second half, and the costly defensive mistakes giving KC first downs. That was one thing, at least as far as the Bengals, that didn't do well either. Kind of like the offensive line. It just seemed like they were able to contain Mahomes, but when it came to containing them for like first downs, big plays, third downs, it really was the Bengals. The Bengals just kind of fucked it up, and I don't want to say they necessarily choked Steve, but I mean it was just a close game until the very end, right? Um, real quick, Liam, tomorrow is his birthday, everybody. So everybody wish Liam a happy early birthday. Happy birthday, Liam. Good for
Happy
you.
birthday, Liam.
Happy birthday, Liam. So what and we kind of summed up the game already pretty nicely, I think. Anything else before this? Oh, I actually did want to get
Does
to
that
this unless you have something.
does that sound better? Were you hearing an echo by any chance?
Yeah, I think it's so.
Okay. I thought you were coming into my headphones. You're actually coming out of the computer, but I didn't know until I went to the bathroom.
Until you heard me say happy birthday.
Yeah. So sorry for everyone listening if the quality hasn't been up to par as usual, but
We heard you shitting.
you did? That was the
Yeah,
fastest shit in the world if I
it
was
was
shitting.
violent. It was pretty violent coming out of that asshole. But what
It's
I
the
will say,
wings. The wings, the atomic wings.
yeah, yeah, and we mentioned it before. The biggest error was Joseph Asai pushing getting that unnecessary roughness call on Patrick Mahomes. What happened afterwards, heading to the locker room, was Jermaine Pratt, one of the linebackers for the Bengals. He was, again, this is part of the emotional side of football, right? He was heading to the locker room and he said, "It's my last year. Why the fuck did you touch the quarterback?" He was screaming it as he's getting into the locker room. So it was like a huge thing. Micah Parsons said, "That's lame as fuck, blah, blah, blah." Micah
What
Parsons
is
saying that from Jermaine Pratt.
him saying, "Why would I do that?" is lame?
No. Him saying that, Jermaine Pratt saying, "Why the fuck would you touch the quarterback? It's my last year in the
Oh,
Bengals." And
I didn't realize that. So he was wired up and he said that to the linebacker?
so it was while Jermaine Pratt and all the Bengals were going back into the locker room. Jermaine Pratt had an emotional moment at that point where he was like, "Why the fuck did you touch the quarterback? It's my last year." It's his last year on his rookie deal with the Bengals. So he was really emotional about that situation. So again, this is another part of the emotional side of football. You are one game away playing your heart out to get to the Super Bowl. And something like that, like an error from a 22, 23-year-old Joseph Asai happens. And you saw Joseph Asai. He was crying on the bench. He was crying on the sidelines. You know what
I
I
see it.
mean? Yeah,
I
Kyle's
see
listening
it.
to it right now. Yeah, that's what happened. And Micah Parsons said that's lame as fuck, blah, blah, blah. But it's the emotions that get to you at this point in my point of view, right?
That's sad.
Yeah, and Jermaine Pratt, again, didn't mean it because he did go on to apologize earlier today. He said, "I was
Just
emotional.
emotional.
I was in the
Yeah.
moment. I would say I was wrong as a man. You can look at yourself in the mirror and say, I was wrong. I wasn't a great teammate in that moment." And a lot of us have done that in the
Yeah.
moment, in the heat of the moment. You say shit, you do shit, you act a certain way. That isn't necessarily you. It's just your emotions take over. Some people are really well at controlling them. But in a big game like this, like I was saying, it's just what happens. It's just what comes out of you because of how badly you wanted to make the Super Bowl. Kyle, what were your thoughts? You literally just saw it. So what were your thoughts
Yeah.
on that?
Immediately I think about there was Charles Barkley, Kobe Bryant. I don't know if I've ever told you this on
Mm-hmm,
on the podcast. Have I
mm-hmm.
shared about Kobe Bryant and the game that he had where he didn't shoot?
No, I don't think so.
Well, Kobe was trying to prove a point to the Lakers, so he went the whole game without shooting a basket.
Mm-hmm.
Charles Barkley texted him after the game and was like, "Yo, like that was lame as fuck. Like, that was dumb. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All these people pay to see you, and you're trying to prove a point." And Kobe, he said he texted him back, and he's like, cursing him out, and he's like, "Fuck you, I got 5 ring, all this stuff." And
Mm-hmm.
then he said they're going back and forth, and they're on the West Coast. So by the time the game ends, he's like, it's like 3 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And then years later, time goes by, and Kobe texts Charles Barkley, and he's like, "Yo, my bad. Like, you were right, and
Mm-hmm.
and I was wrong." And then Charles Barkley said, "Look, you were just wrong that night. You weren't, and I think it's really important that we get back to that. And it's been coming
Mm-hmm.
up a lot for me is how we kind of hold people hostage and base them off their bad decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. Like, you were wrong that moment. You were
Yeah.
wrong then, right? As
Yeah.
long as you can own up to it and admit it, we can all move on. Like, it's okay to be
Yeah.
wrong. You said something stupid. You were wrong in that day at that time. That doesn't mean that's who you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's actually come up 3 times. This is the 4th. It's really funny. But, yeah, I just think he had a moment, like he said, really emotional, and he looked back on it, like he said, look in the mirror, and he was like, "That is not what I wanna portray." He probably didn't know he was gonna be recorded. You gotta keep that in mind.
True.
And the fact that it made it onto the internet, he was like, "This isn't good. This isn't a good look for me," and hopefully, it's a little deeper down, it's not about that. It's not about his
Mm-hmm.
image. He
Mm-hmm.
he realizes that it was a really shitty thing to do to
Mm-hmm.
a guy that's literally crying on the sidelines. It's just like,
Yeah.
what are you gonna fix by doing that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and also, I'll ask your opinion on this. I mean, how much grace do you give somebody when they do something that's just like blatantly like, no, you have to be a bad person to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, like I know that seems like totally opposite sides, but I always see things from different points of view. So like
Mm-hmm.
the other side of it is like, how do you make that mistake? Like, that
Yeah.
is a really big mistake. Like, how do you look? I was emotional. I took off my jacket. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I took off my jacket, but I didn't call him names. You know what I mean? I was thinking, oh my God, like this was I was blaming the call. I'd rather him blame the ref. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because that's your way of venting in that moment. It's just
Yeah.
be like, the fucking refs, they threw the game, because it's mean
Yeah.
to attack a person, but the refs aren't people, so you can attack them.
And that's great. That ties into what you're just saying. It ties into your point. At that moment, while we're watching that game, you and I had differing opinions on certain things, and we were fresh to that. We were literally just witnesses to that minutes prior, and we're just kind of, you like you said, you're expressing your frustration. You took your jacket off. I'm over here just kind of like saying, no, it was right. It was the right call, this and that. But again, it proves that point that at the time we are just prone to maybe making mistakes,
Yeah.
emotional mistakes, which today we were like, you said things were right and I said things that were right. And we both aren't technically wrong about everything. There's just little things that we were right about and everything else not necessarily right. That's just how it goes, man. He's Kobe, all this with
Everyone does it.
Jermaine Pratt. Everyone does it. And
If you haven't done it, you probably don't care that much. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Because
yeah.
even Tom Brady has had his
Mhm.
moments of cussing out teammates. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
you see him like, it's just when you care so much, like that's sometimes what happens. That's what transpires out of the cares. And there was a person that said on Facebook, this isn't,
Mhm.
but he was saying, let me see if I can find it here. There was a player. So the Broncos are doing an official upgrade to their scoreboard. It's going to be the fourth largest in the state in the NFL.
Mhm.
Penners want to spend money. They got billions. They want to play with the
Oh
new
yeah.
stadium.
They want to
So
make it
they had to
rain.
they had to take off the Denver Bronco from the top, right?
Mhm.
And there was a guy that was like, put him on the south side of the stand so we can't see the field. Because he's like, and then there was a comment in there that was like talking about, oh, I've learned so much this year about fans that, like when they're bad, just ignore it, and when they're good, celebrate them. And I was like, listen, you can't have the emotional capacity to not care about losing if you truly care. Like,
Yeah.
and it doesn't mean in Broncos Twitter world, this has been a big thing this year where it's like they'll say you're not a real fan if you're like Russell Wilson's playing like ass. They're like, you're not a real fan. It's like, don't tell me I'm not a real fan. I am a
Yeah.
real fan. Like,
Yeah.
the fact that I'm this mad is because I'm a real fan. Now, if you have somehow this capacity and ability to ignore all the bad shit and only celebrate the good stuff, I will question if you're a fan. Because
Mhm.
how can you go through a shitty year and not get mad about what you're seeing on TV? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And this kind of ties back in. It's like the fact that he was that mad and emotional. I'm sure everything he said prior to why would you do that about him being on his last year on a Bengals contract, I'm sure all of that was why he was that emotional, because he
Yeah.
cared that much about getting
Yeah.
a ring, and he fucked up. Let's just call it what it is. He fucked up and he
That's all it is.
apologized for it, and we can all move on now.
And like you said, refs aren't people. Ginger agrees. Zebras aren't
No.
people.
No,
So
no. I meant
hashtag
I meant
zebras aren't people. Tack
I
or
actually meant if you're gonna attack
Kyle.
someone, don't attack your own teammate. Deflect it somewhere where it's
Yeah.
not gonna be in your own locker room. Like, it's your brother.
Oh, but yeah, it's just something to kind of like, it's a talking point for sure.
Yeah.
Did he fuck up? Like I said, he fucked up. That's people do that. He moved on. He apologized. He probably went up to Osai the other, later, either earlier today or later, after that, and was like, "Hey, man, what I said, that's my bad. It's my last year. I just, this, that, blah, blah, blah." It's a conversation that you have with them after the fact that really does matter. It's the emotion, like Kyle said. If you don't give a shit about it, you're not going to get emotional about it. Then what are you doing here, right? Like, why are you playing this game? Why are you a fan? Why are you this? Because I know for a fact when people say, like Kyle said, you're not a fan if you think this person or this team, blah, blah, blah. Bullshit. Don't call me not a fan, because I have fucking been mad. I have been sad. I have been depressed. I have been excited. I buy merch. I buy fucking flags. I buy this. I buy that. You know what I mean? It's being a fan.
And we live in a country that is so diverse. Like, if you could go from California to Texas to Florida to New York to the Midwest to Colorado to Seattle, you'll see that we live in an awesome country, because you can go anywhere and it'll fit in. Like, you just have to find your spot. You know what I mean? It is such a diverse place, but in diversity comes different ways of being up, different resources with coping mechanisms and stuff like that. Some people care that much, but they didn't grow up with, learning how to properly distribute and cope their anger. You know what I mean? Like, that's a real thing that you also have to consider, instead of just being mad at people. To think about the fact that maybe he didn't grow up in an environment where people talk to him about healthy ways to express anger. You know what I mean? And I'm not a psychologist going to college. Hopefully I'll become one. But I really think that has to be considered too. We're so quick to point fingers at people.
Exactly.
And we have, there's so many factors and things that go into it. I would just stay out of it, but I will say that it was a little fucked up.
It was a little fucked up, absolutely. At the time, you're kind of like, "Oh shit!" Right? Like,
goddamn, he said that.
Yeah,
he said that, his teammate.
But all this to say, we have got a great Super Bowl matchup in a couple weeks. It's going to be the Eagles and the Chiefs. The Chiefs, obviously, making their third Super Bowl appearance in 4 years. So great on them. Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, one and done last year in the playoffs, all the way to the Super Bowl this year. So great achievement by them, just getting here, getting to this point, right? And for the next 4 episodes, by the way, we have a special one next week during Super Bowl week, which, I just teased, but, stay tuned.
Gonna love it.
We have we have a nice little bonus episode for you guys. We will talk in depth about Kelsey Bowl, Andy Reid meeting his former team that he coached in the Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes, is there a necessity for him to win his second Super Bowl finally, right? Jalen Hurts being benched on national television not once but twice now in the Super Bowl. Does he need to win one? Sirianni, rising up through the ranks of coaching, like we talked about on last week's episode, to finally be a coach in the Super Bowl. A lot of shit to talk about, and we're gonna have 4 episodes for you in the coming week and a half for you guys to get that full scope of things. And I'm sure Kyle and I will create something special for that Super Bowl stream, which we will be doing pending any craziness happening. So, and if you guys didn't watch our AFC Championship stream, I would suggest you guys go and take a look. Maybe check out the last half hour to 45 minutes where Kyle and I really are just like emotional as fuck about this game. So it was very entertaining. Ginger was there. A couple other guys were there, and we hope you
there
guys.
Was people there that we didn't even know were there, and they were like, hey, who was it that said bye at the end? And we were like,
the
KC's here?
Yeah, KC was here.
Like,
KC randomly showed up, and we're like, oh shit, KC, you've been here? What the fuck? But yeah, go check it out, because we do like to kind of do some just entertaining shit for you guys, which, Bill, Steve, Ginger, all these guys that come back and watch us. We do it for you guys, Liam. So we do it for you guys so you guys can get some more entertainment out of us other than these live streams. And Legendary, hey, Legendary's in the chat. Hey, Legendary, what's up? Haven't seen you in a bit, man. Glad you're here. Or chick, I don't know. I'm gonna go with you. Haven't seen you in a while.
yeah. There's no way to know.
Yeah,
there's no way to know.
But yeah, just want to thank you guys again for not only catching the streams yesterday, but also catching today's stream, talking about the conference championship recap. Kyle, you got anything else on the championship weekend that was boring and entertaining and anger-inducing and emotional, just emotions-inducing?
I always got one tidbit. I got to put the chives on top of the meal that we cooked here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that? I think personally, the refs should be full-time jobs. Okay. So right now you have lawyers that take part-time gigs to be refs. I think
Mhm.
the NFL after this season really needs to go into more of a look, there's plenty of money. I
Mhm.
understand rich people don't want to spend money. We have to ignore that because what you don't want is,
Yeah.
50 million out of 100 million people thinking that the game is rigged. Okay. Especially with sports betting ramping up. There's a lot of money to protect here, future money. Okay. And if they want to protect it, I think they need to have no more part time gigs. You literally
Mhm.
go to a college to become a ref. It is a full time job. You do film study, you do breakdowns, you do, like mishap reports, what went wrong, how,
Mhm.
how this could not happen in the future. Like it needs to be taken seriously because we don't know how much money the refs are getting paid on a side gig. But I guarantee you, the problem is the NFL doesn't even have the ability if they're just contracting these refs to control what's happening. They can get a call from
Mhm.
somebody that knows somebody that's like, "Hey, I'm going to give you $1 million if you make one call that goes this way." And the NFL would never even know about it because they don't
Yeah.
work for the NFL. So I do think to tighten that rope a little bit, the NFL needs to take the reffing thing a little more serious and start paying full-time workers. NFL refs is something that will be considered an accomplishment like becoming a nurse or, becoming a teacher. I really think it needs to be taken that serious in order to
Mhm.
protect the integrity of the game moving forward. And with
Mhm.
sports betting arising and becoming a bigger thing, I think this is really a big turning point where the NFL needs to have a serious talk this offseason about it. I
Yeah,
was
and
going to
I
say, what do you
agree.
think?
I agree, man. Like, I know it's a union, like the refs union. Obviously, we had that one season where like the first 6 games, it was like, oh yeah, let's, they went on strike, and they brought up these like replacements, and they were like, okay, we're actually gonna pay you guys whatever the fuck you guys want because they're terrible. Um, but Bill actually says it here. Full time, find them for big screw ups. And I said that earlier. I said that earlier in the regular season when the Bears weren't getting calls, and it was against the Dolphins, I think. Um, they weren't getting a defensive pass interference. They weren't doing this. They weren't. I was just like, find the fucking refs because if any player talks shit about them in a press conference, it's a fine, and the refs can just fuck it up, fuck the game up, alpha the game like you saw yesterday with Kansas City and the
No accountability.
Bengals. Yeah, and there's zero accountability. They can come the next day and be like, "Oh, by the way, we missed that call. Sorry, we're gonna go get lunch. See you later." You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
bullshit. Like, how do you? I can't go into my job and be like, "Oh, hey, by the way, yesterday when you asked me to get you that, everything on that thing was wrong, but
Yeah.
whatever. Maybe next time I'll get it right, you know?
Yeah, when I was a flight attendant, we chartered the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Bernie Sanders, Ted Cruz, the Rolling Stones. It was a private airline who got bought by rich companies, and there was 21 flight attendants, so they would pick the best crew to be on the most important flights. That's why I
Mhm,
wasn't on any of them. I kept
mhm.
getting the double turns to Cuba and back. They were like, "Yeah, send them to Cuba again." And then meanwhile, they're doing all this cool shit. They're like flying Justin Bieber's media crew in another country, and I'm in Cuba again.
Yeah.
But this is, I think the refs need to be like this. You had 100 people, 100 million people watching the game. You're telling me this was the best crew that you could put together. I
Mhm.
mean, it should be like a captain thing where, like, as you rank up and get better and better, you get, like another gold star. Like,
Yeah.
hey, this ref had a 97% penalty rate. You can rank them. Like,
Yeah.
they maybe not release that to us, but they'll be like, hey, this guy's hitting 97% of calls. He's going to be in the big game. There's got it. Like, this is a
Yep.
business, and this has to be. I mean, this could easily be a full time job. I could make this a 9 to 5 and keep them all busy for 40 hours a week, guarantee it.
Yeah, and
If
and
you
and
can't,
baseball does do that. They do rate them too, the
really,
umpires, so they should do this to the refs. Yeah.
yeah. So I just that's the other thing is like, how did this crew end up in this game? That's what I want to know. It's like,
Yeah, dude, it was so bad.
yeah. So we'll see. What I guarantee you though, people are saying no, the NFL doesn't have to do anything about it. I think they do, and I think they do also do something about it this offseason. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to hear what comes. I think something has to.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me get to a couple of these comments before we get out of here. Legendary. He's like, asking where he was at. He's like in the shadows, and he's like, I'm a male, 5'5", 160.
Okay.
Just saying all beast.
All beast.
And then here we go. Steve saying, remember I said that a few chats back about refs not being held accountable for their actions. Exactly. And that's what I think needs to happen moving forward. Although because it is a union, I think it'll be difficult. I think it'll be difficult about fines, this and that, like little things that affect big outcomes to games. You remember way back on that Saints game where they didn't call the PI, and we were just like, how do you not call that? That is obviously a blatant PI call, but they didn't call it. And they were just like, oh, the next day, literally the next day, they're like, yeah, we missed that one. The Saints should have gone to the Super Bowl. And it's like, how do you just let that slide?
You know what?
NFL, don't think we forgot.
Yeah. If they can replay the effing down when a ref tries to blow the whistle and they run the play, they can replay it down when there's a PI that got missed, right? Why is it when it's the ref's fault, the play gets replayed? But in an instance where the ref runs out on the field and says, no, it's the player's fault, I was stopping it, now we're going to replay it. So if it's the ref's fault, you don't get a replay. If it's the player's fault, we're going to replay it. That doesn't even make sense in any world. Like, if you blatantly miss a call, I say replay the down. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I think that's
blatant.
Fair.
Yeah.
If it's like the Saints, right? The Saints one, you got to replay that down, man. That is like, no, imagine what would have changed if they got to replay the down. But the problem is you would have, no, man, I think that's the answer, because you would have them replay the down, and a lot of people would be satisfied with that.
Yeah.
Because it's not like they would be blatantly like trying to, get away with penalties, because most of them like that get called. 99% of the ones that happen, like the Saints one, get called. For whatever reason, that one didn't. I think you got to replay those kinds of downs. Like,
and I was going to say, and during the offseason, I'm going to pound the fucking rock on, like, do these refs get ratings? Do they get rated every day or every game? And if so, why aren't the most highly rated ones on a crew able to take that week of preparation going into this game, just like the players do?
Yeah.
Hey, they missed this, they missed that. Maybe we call more on this, because I saw something of that ref in the NBA who got fired for betting on games and actually literally making calls to change the outcomes.
Yeah.
He's like leading up to a game, the refs will get together and be like, hey, there wasn't any traveling calls on this team the last game. So if you do see anything, we really have to call it. There wasn't any this on this team, so we really have to call them, try to make it a tighter game, because they did get the benefit of the doubt last time. And that's a good way, I think, to kind of go about it. Is like, you kind of go about it, you talk about it. But I mean, there's got to be some way
when they throw a flag on the other team immediately, and it's like, okay, I guess we're even now. But it's just
in a sense, yes, but because when you look at it from this point of view, like you're saying, you're like, oh wow, we're even now. Like, no. Also, you got to think of it in a sense that team now thinks from the last game they can get away with it whenever. Now they're getting flagged. Now it's like, oh, okay. Never mind,
I do think, like, on Thursday through, I would say, Saturday, they should study film on the teams they're playing to see what the trends are. Like, hey, this guy's doing a lot of offensive pass interference. Like, you should be studying your players and all that stuff. So I totally agree with that. But we'll see what happens. It's like, the problem is, I think it's going to take like 4 years, because if you started a college, you know what I mean, and you wanted to take this serious, you got to do recruiting for. I'm sure there'd be plenty of people stoked to get a job in the NFL.
Absolutely.
But it would take some time to get the product you want. But we got to start somewhere. We can't just roll with the union for a long time. And I'm a big union guy, but it's not working. It's not working.
And it's proven this year to be just ridiculous. So again, like I said, I'm going to pound the rock about the refs all this offseason, from here till the Super Bowl till next year. Something has to get done, but we have 4 more episodes until Super Bowl stream time. Kyle and I, again, we're going to cook something up for that Super Bowl for you guys to make it super entertaining. Hot dogs,
cheese
fish,
wings,
fresh fish,
salmon,
fresh fruit.
We're
in the
Pacific
fish
Northwest. Okay.
So we're gonna have something very entertaining for you guys the next couple of weeks, the next few episodes, and hopefully you guys can join us for those episodes, and it's just gonna be a good time. So before I go though, before we go, Jinja, Bill, Steve, Legendary, did I say Steve? I said Steve, Liam, everyone here, Tyler as well. Yep, I just saw him. Tyler, all you guys that were in the chat today, we appreciate it. Thank you guys for catching our show today and our stream the other day. So we appreciate you guys coming in here. Steve said, "Can we get a hell yeah as well?" Hell yeah!
Oh yeah! I didn't know if we were gonna do it quick, like a hell yeah, or like a hell yeah.
We'll do the hell yeah. 1, 2, 3. Hell yeah!
Go, we're like a little. We do.
They got it. They got the gist. But before we get out of here, Kyle, any one last little tidbit before we get out of here?
No, just really excited for the episodes that we have coming. You guys are really going to enjoy it. The cool thing about this podcast is we record everything that we say and do. So we will do some reflection, and that's just a little hint.
Love it. Well, you guys can catch us on Twitter right up here at @Star6 Media, @_Star6 Media, to check out when we post our lives, as well as just some other stuff, talking about football, talking about baseball, soccer, everything. And you can catch me on Twitter @AndNowRick, again, right up there. Kyle, where can they find you on Twitter?
Find me at FTBLONLYPODCAST, football only podcast. And thank you guys so much for an amazing year so far, Steve and Bill and Jinja. All of you guys have really brought a lot of life to this channel. I just wanted, I thank you guys a lot. Just want to make sure I always thank you guys for hopefully making a dream come true over here.
Yeah. And we've got one more game this season to bring you guys more entertainment. Other than that, you can follow us at @Star6 Media right there on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, and Facebook. So make sure to give us a follow, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button to get notifications for whenever we go live. Bill hit it last time. We hope all you guys have hit it too. And again, like I just want to again repeat what Kyle said. We appreciate you guys being in here with us, making a dream come true, making us like excited to come into these episodes with like people viewing us in the comments, chatting. So we really appreciate you guys in here.
For sure.
All right, Kyle. Well, I will see you for Wednesday's episode. And again, if you guys don't catch the lives, go on Apple, Spotify, Google, anywhere you listen to a podcast, because we turn these episodes into podcasts for the following day. Same night usually, but catch us there. But like I said, Kyle, I'll see you Wednesday. Great episode, brother.
Yeah. See ya.
See ya.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Oh, yeah. Happy birthday. See ya.
See ya.